Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we are tackling a topic that is absolutely paramount for literally any modern financial technology business out there. We're diving deep into comprehensive strategies for securing a digital wallet, and we'll be drawing directly from Atlant Security's expert guide on the subject. So let's just get right into it. If you're a business leader, you need to know that digital wallet security is not just some IT headache, and it's definitely not just a box you tick for compliance. It's a critical business asset, period. Your platform is built to make your customers' lives easier, right? Well, keeping their data safe is the absolute best way to earn and keep their trust. The guide actually suggests looking at this complex infrastructure like building a layered fortress, and that's exactly how we're going to tackle it today. So here's the game plan for building our fortress. We'll start with Part 1, the high-stakes digital wallet. 2, securing your cloud foundation. 3, protecting APIs and microservices. 4, securing the mobile front door. 5, guarding keys and assets. And finally, Part 6, continuous compliance and monitoring.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the high-stakes digital wallet. I want you to stop and ask yourself a pretty provocative question. Is your digital wallet actually secure? And honestly, I don't just mean asking your IT department if things are fine. I mean, did your team actually follow secure development best practices from the ground up? Have you built a rigorous DevSecOps culture from day one? Look, we get it. Development schedules are incredibly tight, and it's so common for security to just get pushed to the back burner so you can launch faster. But in the world of digital wallets, you have sensitive financial data and real-time transactions flowing 24/7. Assuming you're secure without rigorously validating it, that is a massive, massive business risk.
Now get ready for this staggering statistic. Over 90% of cloud systems users leave their environment entirely on its default settings. 90%. Why? Well, there's this really dangerous assumption, more of a myth actually, that your cloud provider, whether you're using AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, is just automatically securing everything for you right out of the box. That is fundamentally false. It completely ignores the shared responsibility model of cloud computing.
So here is the main takeaway for this layer. Security isn't an add-on. It's not a premium upgrade. It is a fundamental feature of your product. If you ignore secure development, or if you rush your minimum viable product to market just to get that fast scalability and save some cash, a single breach could literally tank your whole company right at the start. It takes years to earn customer trust, and you can lose it in seconds.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, securing your cloud foundation. Let's look at the bedrock of your infrastructure. So let's totally bust that myth of automatic security. While default cloud settings do have hundreds of security controls, they're mostly turned off by default. Why? Because the providers don't want to accidentally break your application. Your goal has to be a secure cloud configuration. That means you are taking active responsibility. You're managing identity, you're turning on logging, and you're using infrastructure as code to make sure every single deployment is consistent and error-free. And within that cloud foundation, I know a lot of you are using serverless technologies, right? Things like AWS Lambda or Azure Functions. And they're amazing for faster transactions and scaling on a budget, but they bring their own unique risks to the table. Insecure configurations, vulnerable third-party libraries, and even things like cold start latency can completely expose your real-time payment operations. To lock this down, you've got to enforce the principle of least privilege. In plain English, that means a function only gets the exact permissions it needs to do its one job and absolutely nothing more. You also need to lock down your API gateways with robust identity management and integrate anomaly detection so you can flag weird behavior the literal millisecond it happens.
Layer 3 of the fortress, protecting APIs and microservices. This is the connective tissue of your app.
In fintech, we absolutely love containers, like Docker and orchestration tools like Kubernetes. From a business standpoint, think of these as your modular building blocks. They give you incredible scalability and let you deploy at lightning speed. But functionally, if one single container gets breached, you definitely don't want an attacker moving laterally through the rest of your system. You've got to be hyper-vigilant about unpatched container images and misconfigured communications. This means putting strict limits on resources and using mutual TLS or MTLS for service-to-service authentication. It basically ensures your internal building blocks are constantly double-checking each other's IDs.
And the things connecting all those services together are your APIs. You can think of APIs as the doors and windows of your digital fortress. They let your mobile app talk to your backend and to third-party financial systems. But because of that, they are massive targets for attackers. So a strong defense strategy here needs rigorous authentication, like OAuth 2.0. You must have rate limiting turned on to stop brute force or denial of service attacks dead in their tracks.
You absolutely need strong input validation to stop malicious code injections, plus world-class encryption, both while data is moving and while it's resting. Using tools like APGO or AWS API Gateway is basically essential here to enforce these rules and catch vulnerabilities before any data leaks out.
Let's step up to Section 4, Securing the Mobile Front Door. Let's talk about where the users actually live.
Because digital wallets mostly live on mobile devices, your attack surface is quite literally walking around in your users' pockets every single day. You're up against device-level threats like malware and rogue apps, plus network-level threats like session hijacking. To fight this off, you really need to minimize the permissions your app asks for. Seriously, don't ask for users' location if the wallet doesn't explicitly need it. You should also be using certificate pinning. This makes sure your app is only talking to your legitimate server, which totally ruins a hacker's attempt at a man-in-the-middle attack. And of course, multi-factor and biometric authentication, those are completely non-negotiable for securing user logins today.
All right, we are at the core now. Section 5, Guarding Keys and Assets, the actual financial heartbeat of the platform. When it comes down to it, digital wallets rely entirely on cryptographic keys. If someone steals the keys, the money's gone. Simple as that. Enter the Hardware Security Module, or HSM for short. You can visualize an HSM as this indestructible, heavy-duty physical vault sitting right in your data center. Its only job in the world is to securely generate, store, and manage your cryptographic keys in an environment where the key material literally never leaves the physical device. It is the ultimate back-end security mechanism.
Now, when you compare these asset protection strategies, you really see how powerfully they layer together. First, you have your HSMs acting as your secure back-end key storage. Then, right at the transaction level, you bring in multi-signature wallets. This means a transaction won't even go through unless multiple independent keys sign off on it, which totally eliminates a single point of failure. And finally, for users holding really large balances, you want to encourage hardware wallets. These give you physical, offline cold storage that is 100% insulated from anything on the internet. Layering these three elements creates a defense that is incredibly tough to crack.
Finally, we reach our last layer. Section 6, Continuous Compliance and Monitoring.
Look, I know it's so easy to look at regulatory compliance and just see a tedious, boring, bureaucratic checklist. But we really need to reframe that entirely. Big frameworks like PCI-DSS for payments, GDPR for privacy, or the NYDFS cybersecurity rules, these aren't just red tape. They are your baselines for operational security. Sticking to these standards actually forces your business to adopt the rigorous practices needed to protect highly sensitive financial data. It's a roadmap, not a roadblock.
But hey, even with the best baselines, you have to be ready for the absolute worst-case scenario. So here's a really practical methodology for you. First, you need a clear, documented breach response plan. If things go south, who gets the phone call at 3 a.m., who talks to the press, who unplugs the servers? You need to know. Second, run regular tabletop exercises. Basically, simulate an attack and test your team's reaction in a low-stakes environment. And third, deploy CM tools. That's Security Information and Event Management. These tools give you real-time visibility across everything so you can detect and isolate threats the exact second they pop up. And that brings us to a quote that beautifully sums up everything we've talked about today. Adopt a DevSecOps approach, or security is integrated into every stage of development in operations. Security just cannot be an afterthought that you patch on right before launch day. It has to be a continuous, breathing life cycle. You have to stay ahead of these evolving threats by baking vulnerability assessments, threat modeling, and diligent patch management right into your team's daily routines.
Which brings us to our final thought for the day. I want you to take a hard look at your current infrastructure. Think about the 6 layers of the fortress we just walked through and ask yourself honestly, are you ready for your next security audit? Because at the end of the day, securing your digital wallet isn't just about passing a test. It's about making sure your business survives, thrives, and protects the customers who rely on you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and make sure your business is truly locked down.